Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for this very kind words. We can really feel the support, of UAE and France, working in the region. It's just been fantastic. UAE, for me, as a French, has been really, territory of hope, of growth, of constant innovation, with huge support for everyone. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Will be, hosting some kind of presentation of few thoughts I have on, how AI evolves. I'm lucky enough, to follow some dozens, hundreds of customers. And I keep telling, that when I started to work on AI 10 years ago, I had, to explain what AI was. You need to realize, coming to meetings and explaining, our customers were in the middle of the digital transformation. So we had to explain, what AI was. I can tell you it's not the case anymore, right? So now it's like just, incredible, hopes, incredible adoption. And I guess, it's a completely different, path. And we are really entering a moment where, AI is not innovation anymore. Now it's like really embedded into our client roots, our client processes, both in terms of, improving the way they used to work, but also improving the way they will work in the future. So as you can see on the slide here, these data are coming from McKinsey, by the way. It used to be very, we had a plateau in AI, right? So for the last, I would say, 6 to 7 years, one company out of 2 in the world, let's say big companies, were having at least one project in AI. So what happened since the last 3 years with GPT and GenAI in particular is that, this plateau is not the case anymore. So we have really seen a huge increase. And now approximately 8 companies out of 10 in the world are actively, using AI in the day-to-day. It's just impressive. And what has impressed me the most is that it's really everywhere, right? In every sectors, in every industry, and actually everywhere in the world, this tendency is happening. I was, going to the US and trying to compare, the adoption in US versus the adoption in Europe and maybe in the rest of the world. And as you can see, there is no like US leading the world anymore. Maybe US is leading in terms of development of infrastructure, development of models, but in terms of adoption and how AI is adopted by companies, it's really, the same everywhere. Approximately 8 companies out of 10 everywhere in the world are actively adopting AI. And what GenAI did is that GenAI has lowered the entry barrier. Used to be a strong bias toward like big giant, big companies. And now basically every company everywhere in the world can adopt AI. So it has actually leveled the playing fields. So to me, it's a huge opportunity, specifically here in the region, to catch up very, very fast, with like big giants. Voilà. Alors, one of the reasons why there is such a big adoption is that the cost, so I was mentioning entry barrier, actually the cost of playing with AI, we call it inference. Basically, inference, for those who may not know, is just the cost of running. In the AI world, you need to build the model, and when it's developed, you play with the model, right? We call it inference. And what happened is the cost of playing with the model, inference cost, has actually decreased in an incredible way. Over the last 3 years, since the launch of GPT-3, the cost of playing with the model has been increased almost by 300 times, right? So it's just incredible in terms of evolution. Why? First, because you have the same performance with smaller models, right? Used to have like big models to have a big performance and criticity. And now with smaller models, you have exactly the same performance, right? So it's open a lot of potential use cases where you embark, AI on your laptop, when you embark AI on your day-to-day, on your post of work, right? It's also opening, a lot of possibilities to play locally, so that you may also have direct connection with your phone, for example, right? Another big tendency is the fact that there is a constant, I would say, evolution with open source. So if you check on the graph, there is some kind of a competition between paid model, we call it closed source, where you don't have access to the code. Basically, it's a bit black box, right? And open source. So open source models are free. You have access to the code. You can play with the parameters, right? There is a difference between, when you pay for something, so the performance is a bit better, but the gap is actually reducing. That means almost for the same performance, you have a free model doing exactly the same, right? This could have been something else, right? But the community all over the world have decided that AI will become some kind of a common good, right? So, and I'll come back to that. So the value, I keep saying, AI is becoming a commodity, right? Of course, it's not true. But the model by itself is starting to become a commodity. What you guys and company will do with the model, playing, with your data, embarking in your processes, is where actually the value stands, right? One other big evolution, and we are lucky enough to have Google people and Microsoft people in the room, is that we used to be very, very focused on text, and now it's not the case anymore. We have what happened, I would say, over the last few months and the last few years, is what we call multimodal. So the model do not produce text only anymore. They also play with images, videos. Yesterday was released a text-to-music model by Google. Google also announced VO3, which will be a fantastic revolution as well in the video world. So I would say the last few years were the revolution of producing text, and maybe the next few years will be more the revolution in playing with, with video, with images, with phone calls, right? So the path of, improving models on multimodal has just been incredible. So these are some examples of actually how you can use these models. Here there is an H&M campaign that has been produced only with AI. So that means the picture here and the models have been produced with AI. So it's actually live and people use it on the day-to-day. And on the right side is a video which has been Puma campaign, which has been also produced with AI. Of course, this raises a lot of questions. Can we use, images, without paying the models, for example? Do we need to ask, before without having the approval, for example? So there are a lot of questions. But my point is that the technology today is available. Companies start to use it, and we really need to think, deep on how we change the way we work, the way we advertise, the way we use, images and public images in the future. Another big tendency is the reasoning, right? The model used to be, there is a book called, developed by one of the greatest minds in economics, that is called think fast, think slow, right? Either you think fast and you produce, output very fast and you produce a text. Either you think slow, and you start to think, right? And the models today are really based on like that. You have output models that output, like regular text very, very fast, but they don't really think, right? What happened this year and launched by the new kind of GPT called GPT-O, you have GPT-O1, GPT-O3, are the reasoning model, right? It's the same basis, but the reasoning model take a bit more time. They go deep, and they can crack problems that hasn't been cracked, by other model back in the history of AI. And what they output is just fantastic. For example, they manage to get to either the first or the second position in the greatest potential competition, in academic school in mathematics, for example. They managed to really have the level today of almost PhD in math or computer science. And this model keeps improving. So there is a possibility that in the future, this model will be used to solve problems that hasn't been answered before, right? So we really entered not only an automatic world, but also a reasoning world where this model will be really used, to help people's mind and to go deeper than what human can do, right? And it's really happening, as we speak. So we are entering this new world, which we call now, or sorry for the buzzword, I know sometimes we get a bit tired in our industry by buzzword, what we call agent, right? There are many different definitions, so I will give you mine. To me, an agent is a mix between automation and reasoning, right? So as I mentioned, there are the new reasoning capabilities of these models, which are honestly great. But if you think about it, if you just use the reasoning power, you don't have something as useful as it could be, because actually you still need people to do the day-to-day work. So even if you have a perfect answer for a customer service, if you still need people, to use this answer to, for example, validate an answer to a customer or to take a decision, there is no efficiency, there is no productivity. So you need to bundle that with automation, okay? Automation used to be there for many years. For example, financial services, telco companies, I use automation for at least 10 years, right? We call it RPA. It's a generic word, robotic process automation, right? So agents are at the frontier of these two worlds. Automation, so you give, some kind of a task and it will do it for you. And reasoning, you need to solve a problem, right? The problem with automation, it was really, has to be defined. You needed to say, okay, this is my input, so this is the output expected. You had no possibility to play with what we call the long tail of tasks. With the reasoning, you can now be, I would say, more objective-driven than task-driven. So you will say, okay, this is my problem, try to find a way to figure out how to solve it, right? And so the agent is a combination of both. So we are entering this kind of a fourth revolution in GenAI. When GPT arrives, you used to have GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3, so it was really LLM focused. You needed to output a text, right? Then ChatGPT happened. So ChatGPT was, the nice UX, nice interface where you can dialogue with AI, right? Then during the year 23, 24, we used to do a lot of RAG, so augmented generation content, where you use this power of GenAI to access to knowledge, right? And now we are entering the agentic paradigm. So these tools are not used to be assistants anymore. They will use to take tasks and to automate, and it's really happening now. So I will give you a few examples of our work. So this has been done for Orange. So Orange is one of the biggest telco company in Europe and Africa. So they have many processes, right? One of the processes we worked at Orange is the processes of handling mistakes when you deploy fiber, right? On average, one intervention out of 10 is unsuccessful. Why? For simple reason, right? You don't have access, to the door of your customer. The person was not here. The key was not working. The room where you have to deploy fiber was full. The network was done. So you can have hundreds of reasons, right? So they have a team. They have 300 people doing only, problem resolution and, I would say, activation of solutions. So for example, if they find that the person was not here, there is someone just, sending a new potential rendezvous, right? If the address of the customer is not right, there is someone putting, the new address in the system. And there is someone, it's true, that just send text messages to say, okay, the new intervention will be this day, right? So you need to understand this process as a multiplicity of tasks, right? So the idea and what we are developing now is an end-to-end solution of agentic, AI that will do the process end-to-end. So it's not exactly end-to-end. We have estimated that it's a mix of 200 small tasks. And out of these 200 small tasks, we expected 75% of this task to be potentially automated in the future, right? So the objective is not exactly to reduce the cost. So we will reduce a bit the cost, but to me, the greatest impact we can have is, I would say, the delay. Task problem resolution from end-to-end identification, a new, I would say, solution can take, I would say, a few weeks. With this, configuration, we can go from few weeks to a couple of days, right? So you can see the lead time of the end-to-end processes goes down by 75% at least, right? So it's just very impressive. Another example in the pharmaceutical world. So one of our customers, they produce drugs, right? There is a big stake. If you think about it, launching a new drug in the market on average takes 10 years. And the average cost of launching a drug in the market is 2 billion, right? 10 years is just incredible. And you have like people hoping for a new drug, and they don't want to wait, right? One of the major time is because basically you don't want to launch a drug that could be potentially harmful on the market, right? So you do a lot of studies, and one of the part of the studies is called preclinical studies. You just, before, testing to anyone, you just look into a lot of, papers, you read all the potential notes, and you write a report, right? So reading this note, writing a report of the potential harmfulness of a drug takes months of very, very qualified scientists, So what we've done is that we've taken all these processes, and it has to be adapted market by market. So it's not exactly the same way. You need to write the report for European, than for Asian, for US. So we take all these processes and we have automated, and the idea is to go for 1 month of writing the report to a few days. It's just very impressive. So all this, you need to think like gathering data, checking the consistency of the data, producing the report, validating the report, adapting the report to every regulation. All that will be handled by one specific agent, and at the end, we'll go from 24 days to at least, divided by 2 in terms of lead time, right? The latest revolution will be the robotic one, right? If you think about it, there is no differences between putting an AI into a digital world and then, using a robot, a real robot, to put that in the hand of, I would say, physical world. And it's already happening today, right? So this is an example of, robots that in China handle, so they do the carrying of the packaging. So China used to have a lot of robots. It's not new. This is the country where you have the most robots, implemented by factory. What is new is that now they are not driven by a specific input-output rule. Instead of that, they hybrid this robot with AI capability. So they are driven by a task objective. So they say, okay, you need to find a way to put these packages from this to this place. And what they found is that sometimes there is some kind of a queue. So the robot by themselves, they've decided to find another way to carry the packages somewhere else. So there is an increased degree of autonomy, as well as in the digital world as in the physical world. So what's in stake for us? We've launched a study at Artefact on the impact of AI and GenAI in our day-to-day lives. What we found is that first, there is a strong acceptance and willingness to use this tool. There is no turning back. If people start to play with AI, people, they don't want to go back. The NPS is great, right? And after, we have, and this is illustrated here on the slide, everyone has a saving of 1 hour per day. It's just incredible. They are coming from multiple potentially tasks, gathering document, gathering information, writing document, producing a report. So all these tasks is our day-to-day, right? So at the individual level, it's just incredible. And it's also happening more and more at the company level. So these are real examples that we measure at some of our clients. So Orange, for example, we really measure an increase in the happiness, right? So the NPS of the team using AI on day-to-day has increased by 10% if we compare with the team not using AI. Second aspect is the lead time. As I mentioned, the lead time on some of the core processes, and we measured it at Carrefour, for example, or at Renault, has decreased up to 80% of some of the more critical tasks. And then there is productivity gain. And we've done a use case, at BNP Paribas, so financial services, where, you automate the loan emission in the private debt market. On average, it can take 1 month. If you use, GenAI orchestration, you can, decrease the back office tasks so that, this lead time goes from 1 month to a couple of days. It's very impressive. Alors, this also leads us to, I would say, workforce consideration. And there is no real clarity on what is going for us. So this study has shown that there are as much, willingness to hire new people than, laying off as well people. So we are in the middle, on trying to find out what's happening. What is true is that if you look into tasks, there are some tasks that will be automated very, very fast in the future. Back office tasks, repetitive tasks. And it's up to us to decide, whether or not we use it for the good, right? Because it will be also new jobs created, technical jobs for sure, because you need people to control AI, as it's still, a lot of hallucinations, there are still a lot of mistakes, but also and what's super interesting in the report, non-technical tasks. Because what we found is that actually, if you use AI, your soft power and your, I would say, capacity to communicate, your empathy, are more and more used because you spend more time to communicate with your colleague. So you will also need more of this kind of soft skills in the future. What is true is that it has already been, seen on the market. This is an analysis that strikes me, coming from one of the biggest job marketplace in the US. This shows, the evolution of, the job post on software engineer in the US. Not everything is AI, there is a macroeconomic effect as well. But as you can see, there is a huge tendency. And coming from a tech company, we've seen, the impact of AI in the productivity on day-to-day. And this may have a profound impact in the labor market in the future. And one example of this impact is what we call vibe coding. It's an example I did so I have 2 kids, and they play, with some video games. And I built a snake. I'm sure all of you know the snake game we used to play when we were younger, right? What's a funny story is that I did that when I left school a couple of years ago, too much. And it took me 1 week to build the game. Well, I was not probably as gifted as some of you, but it took me one week to build the game. Using the GenAI tool, it took me like 10 minutes for exactly the same output to build this game, actually perfectly working with all the main feature of a snake, right? So we call it vibe coding, and it opened up, new horizon. If you think about it, it will increase the capability of product owner to do demonstration, prototypes, but also the research people will be able to test way faster their contribution in the public domain, right? So it will also level up, the ambition of everyone. So I guess it's a good news because tomorrow, maybe everyone can be a developer using this kind of approach, right? Actually, this tool, it's called Lovable. The first version are free. You can test it tonight. The results are just impressive, and you can actually create website and launch it immediately in the market. Voilà. So I think as businesses, you need to also ask yourself the question, right? There is a huge tendency to automate because this is linked to productivity gains. It's a bit, what everyone will do immediately because you see, this capacity of AI to automate, to give productivity gains, to decrease lead time as explained. But you need also to think into long-term impact, how to augment people, how to create new jobs, how to, hybrid technology, not only replace tasks, but also create new tasks in the future. So this balance is really up to you. It is really personal. It has to be defined, businesses by businesses. And I believe if you find the right balance, it will give you the short-term productivity boost, everyone needs, but also the long-term impact that will create new jobs and innovation in the future. And so I will finish on that. So where do we start? There are so many possibilities today. We believe, you need to pick maybe one or two and to make some bets, right? We see like domains where the impact is just incredible. I mentioned R&D with our example in healthcare, but it could be like procurement, it could be anything, right? Take a bet and try to see, how you can put things at scale. Because it's so easy today to do POC, to do, proof of concept. How you can make things at scale will have a big impact. So make a few bets. Second, we believe we need to decentralize the technology, so everyone in companies will be able to make their own agent. But to do that, you need to build trust, right? There is a rise in what we call agentic platform. Agentic platform are I would say, the IT backbone that will have everyone develop in a trustful manner their agent with feature like orchestrator, with observability, supervision of the algorithm. It's something we do at Artefact, and it's to me very, very important to build trust in a decentralized manner in the future. And last but not least is the transformation, right? You need to train people. There will be, upskilling people, reskilling people, as I mentioned, but it's not enough. We need to rethink, how the processes could be, recreated by design using AI. If you take a processes, could be 100 steps. Tomorrow, maybe 50 of these steps will be automated. It's not, enough to put AI. You need to redesign some jobs, some processes, the way people interact with each other. So this is really a profound transformation, and it's something we need to create, because those businesses who will do that will be really AI by design and will be able to create a new version of their own company in the future. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure to share with you all that. Thank you so much.